Hey guys, Script here with another video. Ian McDiarmid defends Palpatine's return in The Rise of Skywalker. He always had a plan B. Oh Lord, here's the thing about Emperor Palpatine. Now, before I read this article, actually, let me just say, Ian McDiarmid himself did say in an interview after The Rise of Skywalker that he was called in kind of last minute. He was actually pretty surprised. And I couple that with the fact that Daisy Ridley also in an interview said that she didn't even know she was Palpatine's granddaughter until halfway through shooting the movie. So this whole thing reeks of like a last minute, we don't know what to do, so we'll do this. Because they didn't want to go with Trevorrow's idea, which was that Kylo became the Supreme Chancellor, and he, it's the final film is about him and Rey and their struggle for power. But I guess JJ decided he needed to bring Palpatine back because people were so pissed off about The Last Jedi, they were afraid they'd lose too much money. Maybe I don't know, but it reeks of like a last minute, we don't know what to do type scenario. But alas, here's the thing about Emperor Palpatine. Somehow he always returns. First, Ian McDiarmid donned old age makeup to play the role of the villain in Return of the Jedi. Okay, we all know that. And then he was back in The Rise of Skywalker as the rotting reincarnated ruler ready to emerge from the shadows and execute his plan once and for all. His resurrection in Episode 9 was a controversial point for some fans, not just since Luke and Vader vanquished the Emperor together at the end of the original trilogy, but because Galaxy's age-old enemy hadn't featured in any other sequel trilogy films. Well, yeah, it's stupid. And then they turned Snoke into a clone. I believe this was all done last minute. JJ said they had no plan for the trilogy, so this was all just last minute decided to do it. But to McDiarmid himself, it makes sense. Speaking to Empire in a major new interview, he shared his thoughts on Palpatine's mysterious comeback. A lot of people said it was ridiculous. Yeah, he says, of course, he was dead in Return of the Jedi, and frankly, I think George thought he'd killed me too. And if I'm not mistaken, you can let me know in the comment section, I believe George did say he was dead in an interview as well, but JJ thought it would be a good idea. I wasn't going to argue with him. No, and you're getting old, it's a nice payday too, right? Still, if there's anyone who might be able to pull off a return from beyond the grave, it might just be Palpatine. I felt that Palpatine always had a plan B, probably a plan C, D, E, and F as well, McDiarmid reasons, and he was an expert in cloning, so... Okay. By pulling the strings across all three Star Wars trilogy, he points out Palpatine now stands as the ultimate cinematic villain. The thing that I'm most pleased about, this only came to a head when they asked me to come back for Rise of Skywalker, is that every single evil action in all of Star Wars franchises, either directly or indirectly down to that character, that is total evil, and that's strangely satisfying as an arc. I do feel fortunate to have been able to do it, and other villains of cinema now have to compete with that. Well, was he running the First Order? Like, was he behind everything? He's the final order in The Rise of Skywalker, but, we don't get anything in the movies that indicates at all that he had anything to do with the First Order at all. So... it's just, the whole thing is so discombobulated and weird. Just don't take the existence of Daisy Ridley's Rey revealed to be Palpatine's granddaughter in The Rise of Skywalker of proof that the Emperor liked too well do it. Please don't pursue that line too vigorously, says McDiarmid. But yes, he does do it. It's a horrible idea to think of Palpatine doing it in any shape or form, but then, of course, perhaps he didn't. Well, did he or didn't he? Canonically, Rey's father, Dathan, was a failed Strandcast clone of the Emperor rather than a genetic offspring, which, of course, was added in a book later, because they were making it up on the fly. Maybe it's all to do with midichlorians, and don't ask me what those are. He continues, never trust your granddaughter. That's the t-shirt Palpatine got made shortly after his death. Palpatine family reunion is sure to be an awkward one, yeah. But this is the problem. The actor himself who plays the character is responding to him having a granddaughter by saying, who knows, essentially, right? It's never explained. I know they say here canonically Rey's father. Yeah, they put that in a book, but when he's shooting the movie, he doesn't know. He's just there. Nobody thought of what this was going to mean and how this was going to be done. They just did it. So this is what you end up with. Oh, the full interview's in the 25th anniversary. Okay. At the end of the day, this is just more proof that they just didn't have a plan. It's very silly. And when people started wondering, hey, wait a minute, so Palpatine would have been 80s, 90s, and he's bumping Uggs to have children? And then, of course, in the book, they made the son that's Strandcast a clone. The whole thing is so stupid and weird. I mean, if you were going to bring him back and you had a plan, you wouldn't have just left it open-ended like that and just sort of make it up later on the fly, because you wouldn't do that if you were trying to make it make sense and make it And if that, if that was your plan from the beginning, you just wouldn't have handled it that way, and you would have had some form of idea that he was there at some point in 7 and 8. But you didn't. The other thing about it too is, so what was he doing for 30 years? Just sitting on Exegol for 30 years. Just sitting there. And somehow his minions, the Sith Eternal, were making 10,000 Star Destroyers somehow, a foot or two below a planet's crust, or they built them and then they buried them a foot or, like, how? Those ships are enormous. They have like 20,000 dudes on them. Like living on them, essentially. Like the whole thing is so stupid. It's so stupid, and you're not going to convince me it's not. It's dumb, and everyone knows it's dumb. And you can say, "Oh, it was cool to see Palpatine." Okay, sure, but you can't say it's a good job of explaining it, and you can't say that the story is good. You can't say that Rey being a Palpatine is good. It's dumb. Again, that wasn't the original plan. I would love to know. And he can't now, right? He can't. But man, maybe sometime years from now, JJ will sit down and explain what those scenes with Rey being left on Jakku when she was a kid actually meant originally when they first shot them for The Force Awakens. Because again, he admitted there was no plan. So they had nothing to do with Palpatine. Her parents leaving her there to protect her or whatever. Like, the original shots did not have anything to do with Palpatine. He was added after the fact. And like I said, Daisy Ridley didn't even know she was his granddaughter until they were halfway through shooting Rise of Skywalker. Literally halfway through. So no one knew what they were doing, and so then you're like, yeah, fans are going to question it. It is lackluster. And if you're okay with him being back and the way that they did it, well, that's good for you. But for a lot of us, it's like, no, man, you can just tell that it's rushed and not very well done. It just isn't. And like everything in the sequel trilogy, everything that's a big giant plot hole and that doesn't make any sense is in the books, right? Like, if Palpatine was still running the First Order and Snoke, and that was the plan, it wasn't, but if that was the plan, we would have gotten a scene at some point with Snoke and the Emperor. You would have had that somewhere in there. You wouldn't have your main villain just having nothing to do with anything and then just popping up and being like, oh yeah, it was me. Even though he doesn't even really say that. He just says he's every voice in Kylo's head that he's ever heard. That's it. He doesn't actually say, I've been running the show. And then he just says, oh, I've got all these millions of Star Destroyers, Kylo. You can have them if you kill Rey or bring her to me or whatever the heck he said. Then factor in the fact at the end where he's like, if you kill me, my spirit will go into you. And then she killed him, and nothing happened. So they have no idea what they're doing. They're just writing lines that they think sound cool. They don't follow up with them. They didn't have any clue what to do with Rey, right? They had no idea what to do with Rey. And there was all these rumors, oh, she's going to be a nobody, she's going to be a Skywalker, she's going to be a Solo. We don't know what to do. Oh no, what do we do? Halfway through the last episode, so 5.5 hours into the trilogy, we're going to decide that, oh yeah, no, you're going to be Palpatine's granddaughter, Palpatine. It's the silliest thing, and it's super disappointing. And what it does to the story arc of Return of the Jedi, of course, they don't care that it completely ruins it. They don't care. Like, the OT, if you look at the sequel trilogy in its entirety, so even before you had Palpatine in Episode 9, you already, after Force Awakens, were like, what did the OT cast and characters fight for? What was the rebellion? What was the point? They, quote, won, but meanwhile, there's this First Order still hanging around, and then out of nowhere, it's, in Episode 7, more powerful than even the Empire ever was. There's this gigantic, solar system destroying weapon, and tons of ships, higher quality ships, better, like they got little planet destroying tech on Star Destroyers, and it's just there. We already were like, oh, what a waste. You made the OT cast look like idiots because they fought for nothing. And then you didn't think that bringing Palpatine back was like just some extra crap to rub fans of the original trilogy's faces in. Like, and it's not even just the OT, it's the whole first 6 films, really. The whole thing was pointless. Like, Palpatine didn't die either, so Anakin sacrificed for his son, nah. Anakin balancing the Force, no. Anakin's love for his son being sort of the pinnacle moment, no. And this is my final point here, where this whole thing is so terrible. And this is where I think they should have gone with it. This is where I went in my sequels reimagined. It was love, Vader's love for his son, Anakin for his son, and Luke for his father, that was more powerful than even the Force. They didn't win because they were more powerful than Palpatine. He was more powerful than both of them. They won because the love was bigger than the power. The love was bigger than the force. And that's a great thing to go by. And I thought, in the sequels, they were going to do something where the new Jedi Order would be teaching that attachments aren't bad. And that actually, you can have all the Jedi powers you want. You can lift rocks till the cows come home. But love is the most important thing. And love's going to make you a good Jedi and make you care about people. And it can't just be about dogma and religion. But they didn't do that. Rey wins through power. She's just the most powerful. And when she wasn't the most powerful, all the Jedi went into her and made her the most powerful. Of course, they didn't help Ben. Ben switched to the good side, so he could now communicate with those guys just as much as Rey could. But they decided to fling him down a cliff, and everything goes into Rey, who's a Palpatine. The Jedi never helped him. The Jedi Ghost didn't show up with Luke and Vader and help them. So, again, I go back to it. He can defend it till the cows come home, and of course he's going to, and that's fine, and whatever. He's the actor. But it's stupid. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Does this make any sense to you? Is this whole thing discombobulated, or what did you think about Palpatine coming back? And did you like it? Did you like the power versus power Marvel victory rather than the love victory? What would you have preferred? If you do like this content, please like and subscribe. Always helps the channel. And check out any other content on my channel. As usual, have a really, really good day.